Hello, everybody, and welcome to my EdTech Life. Thank you so much for joining us here this beautiful Saturday morning. I hope you guys are doing great. I'm just so excited to be here with an amazing guest, and we're going to have an amazing conversation. So, this is going to be so exciting, and it's Saturday. I love what I do, and we get to talk to educators and we get to help everybody out today with our conversation. So I'm just really excited and thankful for all of your support, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are all amazing. But let's go ahead and introduce our amazing guest this morning. And maybe you may have seen this familiar face in some of your trainings. I know she's been very busy this week and even during the summer and everything. But I'm just so excited to have the wonderful and amazing Sue Tranchina here this morning. Sue, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. I don't know if my head can fit within this box right now because you just made me feel so great about myself. But thank you, Fonz. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of the show.
Yeah, sorry, Sue. I'm having a little bit of feedback here that's coming in my headphones. I'm not sure what is happening there, but
Okay.
it's the way it goes, but no worries. So, Sue, let's go ahead and just talk about today. Today, we wanted to talk a little bit about, fostering innovation and collaboration in the classroom. But before we do that, Sue, I just love to hear and know a little bit more about your education journey. I always like to start off a little bit with that, so teachers can know, first year teachers, maybe a couple of teachers that are even veteran teachers can, just relate, see what they can learn and maybe improvise, adapt, and overcome certain situations that they may be finding themselves in. So, Sue, just give us a little bit of your context in education. And if you can, share something a little bit interesting about yourself that we may not know.
All right. So, well, I have a very untraditional route to education. I would say normally, educators, study education while they're in school, and then get a master's or with their undergrad go right into teaching positions. But I'm alternate route. I'm very proud to be alternate route. I actually studied business. I studied communication. So I have a bachelor's in business and I have a bachelor's in communication. I was a dual major, focusing on TV and radio and focusing on marketing and management. I was a coach. I really loved doing it. I was teaching at CCD, Catholic school, voluntary on the weekends, and I just really fell in love with helping the students. My goal was to become a business news broadcaster, and that didn't work out for me because New Jersey is a really hard market. We have New York and we have Pennsylvania, so I would have had to have moved pretty far away, pretty close to my family. So I ended up taking a job in the business field and just didn't really feel fulfilled until I started teaching the Catholic school, the CCD classes, which were like an hour a week. And then that led me to wondering, how can I become a teacher? I looked into alternate route. I met my husband who was actually taking alternate route classes, and I kind of jumped on the bandwagon of alternate route to teaching. Little did I know I'd find the perfect job where they needed a business certified teacher to teach video production courses, as well as other business tech and graphic design classes. And that's when I found my home at Shore Regional High School. There, I was extremely empowered. Technology has always come very naturally to me, and like I said, I always loved coaching and teaching others. Particularly young kids. So I found myself teaching high school, which was unique at in my 20s. But it was fun. I had so much fun, and then I started training. I think it was 2009 or 2010 when I had my first ever Google training, which I went to because my mentor told me that if you go to professional development, you get to wear jeans and you get to go out to lunch. And I was like, sign me up for that right now. And we actually went to Rutgers University. I learned about this like GAF thing, like Google Apps for Education. And flash forward all these years later, it is now my full-time job. I just left teaching at the end of last year because I feel like I'm following my calling. I love teaching, love it. It was the most fulfilling thing. I think It will end up being my favorite career yet. But being on the forefront as a Google certified trainer, as a EDU advocate over at Moat now, and just helping teachers through this COVID-19 pandemic the past year and a half, and before that, we were in person and traveling and just sharing, ways to use technology in the classroom. It's been a whirlwind, as you can tell, whirlwind of just chaos that we've embraced, and we've channeled our energy in trying to empower educators with the tech tools that they needed last year, basically to survive, and to best communicate with their students and to best instruct their students. And now it's a hoping for a better and hoping for an easier year this upcoming year. What tools will we keep? What technology tools will help drive our classroom for the future is really where our focus is. How do we help our students last year, particularly the ones that really struggled and weren't engaged? How do we make sure that they're on the same track for this upcoming year? So again, I just to kind of summarize all of that, because I was a little scattered. I feel very proud to be on a team of trainers where, we really stepped up when we were needed. My husband and I don't know how many trainings we led collectively during the COVID-19 pandemic and the school shutdown, but there were days where we had five or six trainings each in 2 different rooms of the house with 5 or 6 different school districts and our kids on their tablets in the den, running in if they had to use the potty or they needed a snack. But it feels like my calling now to kind of pivot from instructing my students, though I love being a teacher, to helping instruct their teachers, and I feel really blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity.
Oh, that is amazing, Sue. I mean, just your background and everything that you just talked about. I mean, you can really hear, number one, your experience. Number two, well, actually, more importantly, just that passion that you have, that drive to help. And this is something that we were kind of just talking about a little bit backstage. That, I mean, as educators, we're in this business, and we're in the business of helping students, but we're also in the business of helping each other and building each other up. So I'm really excited to get talking a little bit more about that conversation that you brought up, that I want to highlight what to keep and maybe what to ditch, as we come back. But before we get started on that too, it's like, I really want to know just a little bit more of just you and your background as far as becoming an educator. Is this something that you maybe grew up? Was there a specific grade? Was there a specific influence that you said, hey, I want to be an educator. This is what drives me. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I actually, it's interesting. I just had a workshop, in-person workshop, which I'm thrilled to be back in person, though we don't really know how much longer we'll be back in person. Hopefully we will. But I just had a workshop up in upstate New York with some amazing teachers. It was a 2-day workshop where I was instructing on how to embrace your students' drive and need for, using their own voice, and how can we do this through student choice. And I've done a lot of reading and research with John Spencer and his whole movement with student voice and student choice. And I didn't realize it at the time, but a big reason why I decided to go into education is because of student voice and student choice. Though it was not really a thing back in 2008, 2009. And it was because when I was in high school, I actually took video production starting freshman year to senior year, high school TV anchor, and then moved on to college, where I knew I wanted to study communication, but my parents were forcing me to study business, which I'm grateful for now. So I was like, then that's fine. I'll just study them both. And in doing so, I really learned that I could take the skills that I had in communication, like filmmaking or podcasting or radio edits, and that's what I was good at. I was good. I was a visual learner. I was a kinesthetic learner, and back then there weren't different learning styles. But I was very empowered in video production, so empowered in high school that I would go to other teachers and say, I know I need to learn how to write a paper. I promise I'll write some, but if there's ever a chance that I can do anything else, please let me know. And back then, the teachers were like, no, this is the curriculum. This is what you're doing. And so I feel like my calling is in embracing project-based learning, embracing student choice and student voice. I love the opportunity to use new technologies in my own classroom, and I love to encourage teachers at how to be fearless when using technology in their own classrooms. I think that that's a big reason why I like being a trainer, is to show, like, I know that you're scared of this, but look at how simple it is to create a screencast. You hit one button here, and then you record one button here, and then you can just send this out to anyone, and I get really excited about it because there's a barrier where, a lot of teachers have so much on their plates already. And you're like, okay, now you know what? The way that you've been doing it has been great, but now we're going to do project-based learning, student choice, student voice. And it's hard to try to, learn these new styles while also incorporating new technologies. It's just incredibly overwhelming. Teachers don't have time for all of this. So I think that if they can embrace the technology tools that will increase productivity for them, the technology tools that will enhance their students' voices and ultimately empower them, it's really easy to see, on the outside looking in, when a teacher gives a student an opportunity to be empowered, they just hit the ground and run. And that's when the teacher becomes the guide from the side. So by adjusting that way, you can kind of have your students do a majority of the work and really have that self-centered classroom that we're all trying to have for the students, while the teacher's just standing there and kind of managing, building rapport and building authentic relationships, the reasons why we all got into this profession. But there are tools out there that can make it easier to do that. And that's why I kind of love being a trainer. It's why I got into education, was because, I finally had my one teacher who empowered me by giving me student choice projects. In that class, I would score straight A's across the board. Whereas in other classes, if I was struggling, I would just quit and I would just give up. Come college, I would go to my business professors and say, hey, I'm also studying comm. Can I make a video instead of doing this presentation? And they'd be like, sure, whatever you want. College is a little bit more laid back, I guess, higher ed. And I was able to kind of translate my need for visual learning and my need for kinesthetic learning into understanding that actually has, a lot of studies and research, and it's very research based on how, having that student agency continuum, pointing toward empowerment, how important that is to empower our students so that they feel confident showing you and showcasing to you the knowledge that they've obtained based off of your learning outcomes. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
I feel like it kind of does, but it was another very winded response from me.
No,
but ultimately, I think that student choice, though I didn't know what it was at the time, for Mr. Reed in video production class, and then my college professors is what inspired me to kind of get into the classroom and shake things up a little bit.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Really. It really just, that resonates with me so much. Before we continue though, I just really want to give a shout out to AJ Bianco, Josh Tovar. We've got Chris Nessie here. We've got a lot of East Coast people here. It's like, hey, look at that. The East Coast showing up to support. And then I've got Josh Tovar here. I know Josh also. Thank you so much, Josh. We've got a couple of people, Nancy Aranda, who's joining us from Long Island. We've got Yusuf, who's joining us from Morocco. So it's just really great. So I'm really excited. So thank you so much for joining us and being here. And Nancy says here, that makes a lot of sense. Student agency is key.
Yes, that's our Aunt Nancy.
That is
she's also a teacher. She's a phenomenal teacher as well.
AJ here saying New Jersey represent. There you go. That's my boy AJ. Thank you so much. But Sue, you hit on a lot of things that really resonate with me, because very similar story. Like, I didn't go through, and I've said it so many times, I know people are very tired of hearing it, but I did go to business school, and then I fell into education. So I never wanted to be a teacher. But what I loved that I learned through the business is, number one, the communication, because we did need to take a comm class. Number two is the customer service aspect. And when I worked in business for a while, that was really, you're building relationships. And isn't that what we've been talking about so much lately? Just building relationships. And you hit on a couple of things that really resonate in the sense that my last 4 years in the classroom, everything was project based learning. And really what it is, it's and Matthew Woods opened my eyes to this when I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks back. But I never really understood coming into education what the standards were and the teaks and what we had to teach. I just kind of went with, okay, this is where we need to cover. But I never really understood that yet. But it took some practice. But then I found out, hey, this is a nice little sandbox that I just got to be in, where I just got to teach these things, but I get to teach them how I want to teach them. And I did a lot of the project based learning. I provided students Chromebooks when it was there was only 2 Chromebook carts in our school. And I was that one teacher that always checked one out for the whole year. I just signed it out and it lived in my classroom.
Oh,
And we
you
were
were that teacher. No, just
I
kidding.
was that teacher. But the thing is, we were using them every day. I wanted to share the student. And at that time, it was, we would call it Gaffy, Google Apps for Education. So at the time, it was Gaffy. So I just wanted to share all the tools, even though I wasn't a master of them. But I just taught them the little that I knew, and then the students would figure it out, and then they teach me. And then at the end of the day, I seemed like the expert. So I learned a lot of skills from them, and we just got clicky with it. And that's one of the things that I love to tell my teachers, like you mentioned, it's putting the teachers at ease. Right now, teachers are coming back, they feel overwhelmed, and we were talking, a lot of them still haven't fully recovered. And it seems that year after year, we put more on their plate instead of removing a couple of things from their plate to lighten the load and have them focus on being effective, efficient, and being the wonderful teachers that they are. So one of my things too that I love to do with the trainings that I'm very passionate about is I just tell teachers, hey, like you said, a couple of clicks, but I always tell them, just get clicky with it. You're not going to break anything. You can either Control Z, click
Aren't you like
undo.
Will Smith over there getting clicky
Yeah,
with
and so everybody, yeah, so everybody in the district now, it's like, hey, get clicky with it. I was like, that's right. That's all you got to
You need
do.
to
Like,
go like get that trademark or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that is one of the things, like Chris was saying, where teachers need to make some time, to learn some of these skills. And yeah, in fact, they need to make some time to learn a couple of platforms and so on. But really, I think our jobs too as trainers are also, like you said, that number one, relationship, knowing that we are there for them, knowing that they can come to us with any questions because we're going to help them. We're essentially holding their hand and we're helping them grow. And some of them, man, they just take off. They open up those wings and they just fly and take off and actually come back and teach us maybe new things that we didn't know that they can do with the apps. And then there's some that we're just holding their hand and guiding them, and they continue to grow. And that's what I love about the job that we do. And I'm sure that, like you said, I get that joy too when the teachers' eyes light up and they just get so excited about something new and they implement it, because I'm a big fan of the student centered classroom, where in the last 4 years, I was just walking the perimeter and while the students were engaged with those lessons. And I think that's so important
I,
that,
I
yeah.
will just to jump in there. I
Mhm.
will agree with you 100%. I've had students walk into my classroom. This is how you know that that you're doing project based learning right. I had students walk into my classroom a day before a deadline or something, and they would be like, finger like almost on my face, like, I hope that you don't plan on teaching us anything today because we have a lot of work that we need to get done. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. Well, the do now's on the board, so go ahead, and you get like, I have goosebumps thinking about it because you kind of giggle to yourself. You're like, oh my goodness, like, I've created such momentum in empowerment and in these students really, being so passionate and enthusiastic about these projects. I will say, kind of one of my big secrets is that the biggest way to get your students passionate and enthusiastic is about projects in class, or to have them have some kind of community outreach. Those are the really, really big projects that the students like. I can't stop their momentum no matter how hard I try. It doesn't matter if it's the end of the marking period. It doesn't, it doesn't matter if it's the end of the school year, they're still going, and those are the really proud moments that we as educators have. And it's just, you get this feeling like, it's so funny how much effort you have to put into planning for that as an educator. It takes years of practice on how to create project requirements, have formative assessment checks that are proper so that you can actually give them grades on these assignments. Focusing that, somewhere along these lines, there still needs to be your learning outcome. Like, you can embrace project-based learning, but there needs to be a reach, a direction to still hit the learning objectives of your course. And I think that's kind of where some teachers, just that I've heard from feedback from them, they get so caught up in teaching these new technologies that they kind of push to the side. They're so excited. The students are so excited to make a video. They forget that the video is supposed to be, a stop motion animation about photosynthesis. It's a great video with all these effects, but there's like 3 shots of like plant, so it's important to kind of have that balance in the creation, and note that it takes a lot of prep and planning time. But something I actually learned from the CEO of Moat during one of our sessions, he started talking about this. I just pulled it up on my other monitor, the turning the flywheel, and I had never heard of it before. And I read the book on it, and it basically just says that, like, your momentum from different points ultimately will just kind of start to circulate, and the excitement will grow. And it gets to the point where you kind of, like I said, you can't stop the enthusiasm, the energy, the excitement of the students in our own classroom. Or, obviously it's more supposed to be translated in a business sense, but in our classroom, just the empowerment, they come in, the excitement, the energy, it's the class that they look forward to each day. And it's a lot of fun once you see them kind of in the center of their own learning, and really have this special drive. It's really exciting.
Oh, I love it. Like you said, and it's one of the things was it was a little tough for me at the very beginning. And you're right, you have to learn, to put in those rubrics, those expectations. But what I loved about it is just that I can take my students that were at any level, and they were all able to participate in one way, shape, or form. Oftentimes, I had the students that were very quiet, that maybe didn't like to appear on camera or do presentational speaking. So they would be creating presentations, whether it's Google Slides, and at the time that was the main tool. And one of the things that I loved is that although the students didn't participate, maybe just communicating, doing a presentation, but their presentations just spoke volumes of what they were learning. So that to me was a wonderful learning artifact, that at any time, if a principal were to say like, hey, I want to see what they're doing, or what they're, is there any growth? Well, let me show you where they were, and let me show you where they are now. And they can see those presentations. And that's what I loved about using a lot of the tech, that once you get it down, those artifacts are there, that at any time anybody can say, hey, well, we're going to have a meeting for maybe a particular student that might be receiving services. Oh, well, let me show you. This is where they started at the beginning of the year, and this is where they're at now. And they can see growth there. And, that was one of the main things that I loved. And then the students got to take those presentations, and then they would be able to use them, add on to them. And they get so excited, and especially when you provide a genuine audience for them and getting to share that with the community. I would have parents coming in, every period to see their kids present, and they felt so proud and empowered, and it was just wonderful. So it was great. But I have a question here from Chris. So maybe let's go ahead and see. Chris has a question here. Sue, it says, so what can a teacher who is interested in starting PBL do to get started?
Oh, Chris. See, now Chris has his podcast too. So now I'm getting questioned by 2 podcast hosts.
Yes.
This isn't fair. No, I'm just kidding. That is a really, really great question, Chris. So what can a teacher do to get started using PBL in their classroom? Well, first, I think that getting started is the hardest part. And I always say this in my workshops. And I think that the second part here, besides, just agreeing in your own heart and mind to get started, is to look for resources, because they are everywhere. I was the teacher that drove myself crazy. I had no co-teachers. I had no teachers that taught my same curriculum. I created my project-based learning courses from scratch, project requirement sheets, all of my own objectives, obviously, as we all as educators do, but exemplary projects, lesson plans, rubrics, and so on and so forth. And many people worldwide have probably been in my I would say hundreds of, at this point, of applied digital skills workshops. And these are the workshops that I've been leading since 2018 in person, when there were only 20 lessons on Google's curriculum, which is one example of where to kind of start to tap to get interested. And just as applied digital skills, using this as an example, this is a 100% free curriculum that educators can use and abuse any way that you'd like to, because it was created to support educators in giving their students projects that would help them kind of focus on the digital needs, the digital skills that they will need in the future, while also focusing on their teachers' learning outcomes. So something like Applied Digital Skills, where it's 100% free, and you can look through the projects even to kind of spark an idea for project-based learning. So scrolling through and like, oh, vision board, that's a really good idea to use in my classroom. Or scrolling through stop motion. Oh, thank you. Yeah, there you go. So if you go up to browse, you might need to sign in first, but if you were to browse the lessons, you'll be able to find creating portfolios with Google Sites, or creating resumes with Google Docs. So the students are not only learning your learning outcomes in the classroom, they're also having these takeaways like, okay, well, now I know how to make a resume. Now I know how to use Google Sites, and so on and so forth. So I think that, my global workshops that I've been leading on behalf of Kiker Learning, Derek, my husband, and I have been co-presenting them, or Shannon on our team have been co-presenting them. And again, I started if you actually scroll up just a little bit, Fonz, yeah, you can see there's 160 full lessons now. When I first started teaching applied digital skills to educators and administrators, there were 20. So due to COVID and just really progress and teachers actually using this free tool, this is number one. Again, you can use it any way that you want. So you can just pull an idea from here. But number two, if you deep dive into here, the resources that we as educators can have as a foundational project for introducing project-based learning, underneath activities, you'll see all of these instructor-led videos down underneath there. Yeah, there you go. So you have all these instructor-led videos that will guide your students on how to make a promotional flyer. If you're a history teacher, a science teacher, or an English teacher, your expertise is not in making promotional flyers or not in using Google Drawings. So you might think to yourself, oh, I can't assign this to my students. I'm not a master of this. I don't have time in my class to teach this to my students. I'm creating a photo journal in Google Docs. Again, instructor-led videos that you don't have to create on your own as an educator on your Sunday night, after you put the meatballs in the crock pot, now you got to make a tutorial video, which is what I spent my whole career doing. And you can see the skills, the communication, document formatting, writing strategy. And then Fonz, if you would just simply click on teaching materials, you'll actually see here that there are full lesson plans and full rubrics for each of the 160 projects. Under sample rubric, you'll even find exemplary projects and starter projects for each of these as well. So this is probably my recommendation. And of course, there's many other tools out there, but this is my recommendation for if you'd like to use project-based learning in the classroom, and you'd also like to create that that culture of innovation in your classroom that's going to prepare your students for, jobs that don't even exist yet in the future. You can really focus on those digital skills that they need, incorporating project-based learning fearlessly, so you don't have to worry about not knowing how to make sites in order to assign, basic website building to your students. They can go there, they can be self-directed, they can learn at their own pace. You have all of the supportive and supplemental resources, and then you would just say to them like, hey guys, we're going to do portfolios, but I'm going to have you make a creative writing portfolio instead of the portfolio recommended by this project, or I'm going to have you make a video portfolio, which is what I actually did with my own students. I know art teachers who have had their students do the resume and the portfolio project, where they made a resume of a famous artist and then a digital portfolio on that famous artist as well. Derek, my husband, is a longtime math teacher turned tech coach turned math teacher again. And his favorite that he used last year in the classroom was creating a meme with Google Drawings. Again, project-based learning, student-centered. He said that there are some really, really funny ones that came through too, but students that he hadn't really heard much out of throughout the year were finally put on a platform using a tool that in a math class a tech tool that really showed their creative side were some of the best ones that he had seen for submission. So Chris, to answer your question, coming back around again, I love applied digital skills. I would say find a resource that can help support you. Maybe back in 2008, 2009, when I was starting to write my curriculum, there was nowhere near as much content out there now than there is now. But find the content first so that you're not so nervous about implementing it. And then, of course, as always, ed before tech. Don't teach the tech, teach your learning outcomes, and use the tech as a medium to allow your students to showcase their knowledge in different forms.
Excellent. Well, there you go, Chris. You got your answer. You can take that soundbite and you can create a little podcast off of it too as well. So it's a 2-for-1 today. You got 2 podcasts. No, a big before we continue, I just want to give a big shout out to Mel, who's joining us from Colombia. Welcome, Mel.
Mel, hi, Mel.
Steph Rothstein also as well. Thank you,
Hi,
Steph, who
Steph.
is a newly published author. So just big shout out to Steph Rothstein. And so I'm just really, really excited.
Oh, you just had Steph on your show, right?
I had Steph on maybe about 2 months ago or so.
Yeah,
she's
excellent.
amazing.
Oh, she's incredible. Yeah.
The big soundbite from there is, how may we foster more collaboration with educators? So it's about collaboration and not competition. So that is probably something that I will always remember there. Yeah. And of course, I want to give a shout out to Tim Cavey as well. Tim Cavey, who's joining us as well, the host of Teachers on Fire podcast, who will probably be on in about 30 minutes on his show. So really excited. We definitely have a great crowd here, Sue, that is definitely getting a lot of knowledge nuggets from you today as far as project-based learning, fostering that innovation in the classroom, and so on. So let's go ahead and just continue on with our little conversation. This may take maybe just a slight little turn here. But, right now, Sue, as you are doing your face-to-face trainings, you're doing your virtual trainings, and we know that you've been very, very busy. What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now? Maybe not so much on your side, but what's the I guess the climate amongst educators right now? Are you seeing, just a little trend, maybe burnout, things of that sort? What is it that you're seeing?
I have a very unique perspective. My workshops, particularly because we were virtual, were able to extend globally. So I know this is the hardest time there will ever be in education, and I take this really, really seriously. I left my teaching job to try to help, make this a little easier, if possible, on educators, and help show them ways to be able to increase their productivity, to alleviate a little bit of time so that they can spend it with their family, not stressed out and not, tired all of the time, like Derek and I have been, for the past few years, but particularly this past year as educators. I think that the climate is tough right now. It's tough. It's important, I think, to also recognize, though, that we're not alone. It's not just educators in your area that are going through this really, really hard time. It's educators globally that are going through this really hard time. I think that the educators that I've worked with in countries like Cambodia or Nigeria, have zero complaints, and they should. They should have a lot of complaints. Now there's not a comparison there. I'm not comparing them to American educators by any means. But I think that for me, that I did those trainings kind of back in like November, December, when things were really, really, really tough for all of us. And I was still teaching and leading workshops. I was leading them at 8 p.m. at night because it's 8 a.m. their time. I had a really unique perspective to see that this is a global crisis. We're all in it together, hoping that it's temporary and that it's never going to get as bad as it is. Or as it was, and hopefully it'll just continue to get better, and we'll have a better year this year than we had last year. We'll have a better year the following year than we have this upcoming year. However, I would say that there are a lot of people that have a lot of opinions about educators who are not educators, and I feel like now that I'm a former educator, kind of need to call light to that. There are a lot of people who like to point fingers at educators, and we're all just doing the best that we can. We are Derek and I are hosting free professional development weekly for Google for applied digital skills. And those workshops are packed. We have 100 people join us twice a week from all across the world to learn about tools that they can use to be better teachers in their own classrooms. If professional development is full and if teachers are still trying to learn these strategies, even after the hard, tough year that we've had, it just goes to show how much they're willing to sacrifice from their own lives and their own livelihoods in order to kind of stick with it because they want to help their students. They want to be there for their students. We are a profession of people that we have callings and we're answering them, despite low teacher pay, despite, fingers being pointed at us that we're doing a terrible job and that, whatever it might be. On the flip side, a lot of that negativity is coming from people who have really, really loud voices, not necessarily from a majority of the people and a majority of the way that the people in our outside of our educational world, parents, guardians, stakeholders, whomever else, it's not a majority of the way that people feel. So I like to always believe with everything in life that the loudest people always get heard, but it doesn't mean that that's how everyone feels. I would say that there's a lot of hope right now. There's a lot of hope that this is going to be a better year. There's a lot of excitement that, maybe we are hopefully, knock on wood, coming through the tunnel right now, and we are seeing the light, and we are on the on the outside now, looking back at how terrible things were, and things will start to kind of slowly and then hopefully a little quicker get better and better. And I think adversity always leads to you learning more about yourself and putting you in a place that you never thought that you would be. I have teachers that are 5 years away from retirement that never used technology in the classroom before and are excited to go back and use it every day now, So it's remarkable the growth that we as educators as a whole education community have had together. And I think that as with almost like every crisis or every tragedy, there's we've all gotten closer as an education community through our PLNs, through our communication, through social media, through outreach and free professional development. Like kind of as Steph was saying in when she was on your show, through collaboration and sharing. I'm a big fan of if it's free, it's for me, though my husband doesn't like that because I tend to have hoarding tendencies then. But it's so important that if you create something, share it. How is that going to harm you or anyone else? It's just going to uplift everyone and bring us really all into, a world where, we're able to really empower our students. We're really able to focus on our students. We're able to throw those distractions and the negative energy to the side and really just move forward and do what we do best, which is be there for our students and empower them to be as successful as they can be in their future.
Nice. Well, that's a great answer. I really love that. And so just continuing on with our conversation. And like you said, there are teachers that are out there that are still looking to grow. They're trying to find opportunities. So Sue, let me ask you, from a trainer to a trainer and so on, just how do you yourself continue to grow professionally and personally? Where do you go? I mean, you're so busy all the time, you're providing wonderful trainings, but how do you do it for yourself now?
Can I take a break? No.
Yes.
This is a hard one. I saw this on the list of possible questions, and I was a little worried about this one. I don't really know. It's my big secret that I'm not going to. I'm just kidding. So like I said earlier, technology. When I was born, my dad gifted my mom an Apple IIe computer, whatever the original Apple computer was, and my mom was not happy about it. But ultimately, so back then, so it might have been even a version right before whatever the Apple IIe was, because I grew up with the Apple IIe early on, and technology. I was a girl gamer, I was a comic book reader, I was the son that my dad always wished that he had, and technology always has come really naturally to me. I'm a night owl. My husband is early bird, and I am, I get most creative at night. There's actually an interesting TED Talk that talks about how a lot of very creative people spark creativity in the wee hours of the morning, and that is that resonates with me fully. And it's in those searches that I have to constantly feel the need to redirect myself from, like, playing a game on my phone, or, scrolling through social media. And I just keep reminding myself, like, I could be doing something different right now. I could be listening to an audiobook. I could be, like learning about this new tool. I actually have outreach in some business communities to see how they do things differently than education does them. And then, just from being in a technology classroom, I know that, I'm a Google certified trainer, and, people can sometimes be like, oh, Miss Google, and so on and so forth. But I still, there's nothing wrong with still learning all about Microsoft products and all about Apple products, and especially Adobe products. I taught off of Apple computers and Adobe software in my classroom while I'm also teaching Google tools, and training Google tools. So I think that it's important, particularly if you find yourself to be the techie person in your building, or the tech coach. The PLNs or the PLCs are the greatest way to find out where your professional development learning opportunities can come from. There are a lot of free opportunities. That's what I like to do, because, still still not a millionaire or even a thousandaire. I think that it's important to be able to know where to look. Subscribing to newsletters, maybe from some influencers, if you want to call it, or EDU celebrities, or I think that shows like yours, Fonz, like, this is just incredible, where every single week you're learning, and you're also, taking everything that you're learning and sharing it on a platform so that all of your viewers and listeners can hear it, or hear it at a time that's convenient for them. There really is so much content out there. And I tend to go down wormholes. So I'm like, oh, there's a new tool where I can record my video. Okay, let me watch that. Now let me watch that. Now let me install it. Now let me do it. I got to add it to all my presentations, and it's really a matter of finding it, and just harnessing it. I really am so interested in technology, and so interested in, increasing productivity in the classroom, so that, my main goal in life, I think, is to teach teachers how they can get home to their families at an earlier time, and how they can harness technology, and really leverage that in order to make sure that you can have time with your family. So.
I love it. I love it. And that's exactly like, the summer PD that I did offer. I mean, everything was online, but that was the main goal, is I just wanted to add an additional little layer. Like, now this time around was adding those creativity tools. And we were lucky enough, we got Adobe to come and do the Adobe level 1, Adobe level, or the Adobe certified educator level 1, level 2 training with Clara and Dominic Traylor. And then we had Dr. Jennifer Williams, who did one just on Spark itself, and just to increase that, the knowledge, and putting tools in the hands of students that are easy, they can create, but also with that mindset of, I know it's been a tough year, and the tools that I did share with them are, I call them just efficiency tools. To if I can give you, and my goal has always been with my teachers, I said, if I can give you at least an extra 10, 15, 20 minutes at the end of your day or during your break, just to sit down and breathe and
Yeah.
sigh and
Yeah.
just reflect, I'm happy with that. But ultimately, the goal is, like you said, it's like, we want our teachers to go home early to their families, get some rest, have that self-care time. And, that's what it's all about. And I love it. And I'm very much like you, where I'm just always looking at my PLF, my personal learning family,
Oh, I
PLNs,
love that. Yeah.
everybody. And just to see what is out there, and then just to share it and learn it, play with it, implement it, and just see what we can do to increase and help workflow there for teachers and for ourselves. That's so important. So I
Yeah,
really do
that's
appreciate
actually,
you.
yeah, and like, it's almost like being nosy, like, what's
Yeah.
coming up next. And I think that that's really what got me so enthusiastic about Moat, because now I'm working, part time with Moat, and our Moat education team to teach teachers how to use Moat in their classroom. And whether I was working for Moat or not, I would be sharing them during my Kicker Learning and Google EDU workshops, because it's such an amazing tool when it comes to productivity, personalizing feedback, and so on and so forth. But I actually applied to be an education, or a Moat ambassador. Moat Moat certified educator, which I'm very enthusiastic about if you want to ask me about it. But then I applied to become a Moat ambassador. We actually have the Moat ambassador program opening back up again this fall. I know, Fonz, I know. We were in our same group together for our ambassador little cohort. And when I sent in my submission, I connected with John Neal, who I'd only really been following online. And it was kind of, we really hit it off, and I ended up applying for a part-time position through Moat, where now I'm leading professional development to teach teachers how to reuse their audio comments or just leave audio comments, put creation into the hands of their students with audio. I shared it this past week up in right around Saratoga Springs, New York, at the in-person workshop. And the feedback that I got was how great this is going to be for shy students for creation, because they don't have to be on camera. And providing feedback. But ultimately, you can, I was just excited about it because I was able to personalize my feedback in a time that is a shorter period of time than me, typing a comment. And then my arthritis hands hurt. And then I keep on typing. And now, you hit the record button, using students' names, personalizing that feedback. Yeah, Mel and I have co-presented for Moat before. And that's actually how we got connected. So I'm really excited about how that's also extended my, what did you call it? PLF?
PLF, personal learning family. But yeah, I love it. And I'm sure, like you said, getting that feedback is definitely motivating for teachers. That's for sure.
Stop it right now, Fawn.
All right, Sue. Well, here's a tough question, and this is one of the questions that you saw, but I'm always curious, to hear, from all our guests, at this moment, what is your edu-kryptonite? What is it that weakens you and just says like, oh, is there something out there, within the education, landscape that just kind of weakens you a bit?
This is a good one. Yeah, I think that it's, how do I phrase this? What's my edu kryptonite? I'm going to go with the pressure for teachers to feel like they have to do it all. I don't know if that makes sense. I think that it comes from a lot of different areas, and we as educators want to help as many people as we possibly can. And it's very easy to keep saying yes without recognizing that in an effort to say yes to so many things, you're ultimately saying no to some of the other things that are very important to you. This is something that I have done most of my life, and I caught myself doing it when I was a teacher, and it's the reason why I left teaching. So yeah, I guess it is my kryptonite personally. I just said yes to too many things that didn't compensate me. I think that everyone's always like, oh, don't worry, Sue can do it. She's good with tech, or you can do it, you love coaching, or so on and so forth. And there's so many opportunities for teachers to volunteer for things that we feel like we want to outreach to our community, and we want to say yes. And our students are like begging us, do this, do this, do this. And you want to help as many people as you can. And that's my edu kryptonite, is that I was saying yes to everything in my building, all of my students, all of the teachers that needed help, all of the clubs and organizations that needed invitations designed for something, or videos filmed for something, or needed an extra volunteer for something, and they needed to judge something. At the same time that I was traveling every single week, saying yes to doing these presentations for Google Education, for our Kiker Learning team, which is how I found out that when presented with an opportunity to choose, I had a bigger impact on education by saying yes to these workshops where I'm helping teachers globally, as opposed to my own students. And that was the toughest decision I've ever had to make. But what forced me to that decision, especially after this 2021 school year that we've had, the 2020 to the 2021 school year that we've had, there comes a time when you realize that, by me saying yes to teaching a full class load while also leading full days of presentations and nights and traveling on the weekend that I was ultimately saying no to my family. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old right now. So in the midst of the pandemic, we had a newly 2-year-old and a newly 4-year-old, and it was really hard to find that work-life balance. So, and I think that there's a lot of teachers out there that can relate to this. We're constantly asked to do more, and then we're, final bullet point. Also, don't forget self-care. And it's like, I haven't seen a treadmill in 3 weeks. What do you mean self-care? Yoga classes happen, and I'm busy all the time. And I just think it's really important for us as educators to realize that we don't have to do it all. We no is the hardest word for me to say, and I myself need to start learning how to say it more often, I think. But yeah, that's what I would say.
No, I think that's a great answer. So that really resonates, I think, with a lot of people. And like you said, they find the person that can kind of do everything, and then it's like, okay, now you're doing it. But now, like you said, one of the things that I see now with your role switching is now you're empowering teachers and you're giving them those skills so that they can go ahead and do some of those things and bring that tack and continue to grow, and just pushing them to also to grow professionally, grow with what they're doing. So, but I totally hear you on that. And, what you said is the direct quote. I was talking to Al Thomas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Al Thomas.
Yeah, I love Al. I follow him.
Amazing.
We haven't connected like one-on-one yet, but I love
Yeah.
everything that I feel like he and I would be very good friends if we did.
Oh yeah. Al is amazing, and he's an amazing mentor. And talking to him, and I contacted him maybe a couple months back and stuff like that, and he just said, Fonz, he goes, you got to understand. He goes, once you say something, you say yes to something, what are you saying no to? So just like you said, you were saying yes to everything at work, and then, you were saying no to spending that time with your family. So it's important to find that work-life balance. And, so thank you for sharing, Sue. That's such a great answer that I think a lot of people can, it'll hit, but hopefully it'll hit in that positive way to cause us to reflect on ourselves and see what it is that we're doing, and if we're overextending ourselves, and making sure that we prioritize what is important, which is definitely family first. So I'm a big fan of that. So as we start wrapping up, Sue, I mean, I know we can keep talking like forever, and I would love to. I'd love to, but just your energy, everything that you brought, all of your answers, I'm just so thankful for. But one of the questions that I always love to end on, just to kind of lighten up at the end, is if you can have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
I knew you were going to ask me this. I was at Derek's family last night, and I was like, this question is just like looming in my mind. Like, I think that my first reaction to this was, to find something that matters a lot to me and give an opportunity to have that item be empowered. So whether this is like empowering girls in technology, like the girls who code, or girls in gaming, like seeing girls really who I think tend to hit a certain age and feel like, oh, well, I'm a girl, I can't do this boy stuff. I think that was my first initial reaction was, give empowerment to an area where women or girls, just based off of my own experiences, usually feel very, very fearful to enter into a world that, they feel like they don't belong. I think that resonates with me because I am a female in technology now. I walk into a workshop. I also do migration training for businesses. So I walk in this little, 5'2" spark plug to teach everybody about technology, and I get glanced up and down, and they're like, this is like a technology training. And I'm like, I know it, get ready, hold on to your hats. But I think that what I ultimately came up with was that I didn't want it to just be a billboard. I don't want to say just for girls, but I think that girls need to be empowered, definitely. But I think for everyone, it would just be to be bold and to be fearless. If you're fearful, then your fear will hold you back. I have every single morning I wake up and I'm like, how can I be bold today? What is my dream? What do I believe that I can do, or what do I believe that I can't do? And now I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go crush it. Just big presentations like presenting at ISTE or keynote speaking. These are the things that I've always been very, very fearful of, and by overcoming my fear, by being fearless, by being bold, by stepping outside of the box that social media wants to put you in, and everyone wants to put you in based off of how you look or how you act. Just be fearless, be bold, and really know that hard work can really pay off in helping you accomplish your dreams. So some kind of inspirational quote about that.
I love that though, but we can have, how sometimes on those freeways you can have like those little, one right after another. So it's like, be fearless, be bold, be this.
Dream big. Yeah, dream
But I
big.
love
Work
it.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love it. So that's such a great message, and I love the way that you described yourself. 5'2" spark plug coming
Yeah.
in,
Hold
full of
on.
life.
Here we go.
Oh my gosh,
Open up your
that
devices.
from now on, that's it. That's what I think. It's just a spark plug, just ready to go and always fired up. And I love that. And then just to finish up here, one last question is, if you and I could switch roles, let's say you are the podcast host and I am your guest, what would be one question you'd love to ask me?
Okay, I'm ready for this one.
Uh-oh.
My question for you, because I consider you to be, and you're not going to agree with this because you're too humble, but I consider you to be an expert in our field. You have interviewed all of the experts. You've sat through all of these interviews. You've heard from everyone else. My question to you is, where is education going? And what is the most important thing that educators have to look forward to in the future of education? So it's kind of two questions.
All right. So where is education going? Education has definitely changed. The landscape has changed. It's not going to be the same anymore. Although teachers are going to feel comfortable within the confines of their classroom and they're going to rely back on muscle memory. But we are slowly seeing changes as far as even state assessments, the way that they're moving everything online. So tech is here and tech is going to be at the forefront. So it's going to be very important for teachers that are not quite yet very comfortable with the tech to it's time to start making that time and just that little bit more effort to maybe attend some of those PDs and really to take some of that initiative on their own to be able to search just like we do so we can continue to grow. So it's going to be important for teachers to really have those skills because the future workforce, and currently right now in some of my coursework that I'm taking, we're seeing that the technology is going to continue to move within the workforce as everything becomes more automated. And even though the fear of AI may be coming, but people still need to program some of those things. People are still going to need to be there to automate, and you're going to have those jobs that require a lot of that technology know-how. But one thing that I do keep hearing is, and I think Brian Aspinall said it very well, it is a gig economy. And I know students that are very talented that haven't even graduated yet, but they are already making money because they themselves followed, some certification that was free. They fell in love with what they're doing as far as graphics, as far as that passion for coding, programming, and things of that sort. And they're already working and making money. And so we're seeing a shift where now I think higher ed is really going to have to change to compete with the certification programs, because now if you're specializing in one thing, get those certifications, you're paying a quarter, maybe maybe even way less than it is attending a full 4-year university. So that right there is the trend that I am seeing. But always advise teachers, just improvise, adapt, overcome, and just continue to grow. And that's what we need to do.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, yeah. It's. I have an obsession with. I don't know if you've ever read the Future of Jobs report.
Oh, yeah.
Every time the Future of Jobs report
Mhm.
comes out, I'm like, okay, mommy needs her time,
Yes.
just and everything that you said there really resonates with, the results and the changes in that Future of Job report that has been propelling outward. because we as educators, no matter, even if you're teaching preschoolers, or if you're teaching seniors in high school, everything that we're doing is to prepare them for their future. So everything that we do in our classroom, we have this small period of time to prepare them for their futures and to allow them to harness what they're good at. And I like what you said about how Brian mentioned about that gig economy.
Mhm.
It's important for our students to figure out what they're good at, and then us help direct them into their own success.
Yes, I agree with you. Oftentimes, I think that, because of class schedules and things of that sort, and sometimes we don't push our students in the direction that they need to go. It's like you kind of just put them in classes that this is what you need to take, but and then it can stop that growth, that creative flow, what they're going, or what they're passionate about. So it's important to know, like you said, building those relationships in the classroom, know what your students are into, and play to those strengths within your classroom. And that's the whole point of some of that project-based learning, is you're playing to their strengths and what their interests are. And just because it may be a video, or it may be a slide deck, it may be something, it doesn't mean that the learning didn't take place. It just means
Yes.
that they're showing you the learning and their thought process through what they feel most comfortable with. And then later they can continue to grow and pick up new things. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that's very important that we need to do as teachers.
I
Don't
think that, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, keep fanning that flame of creativity, amplify
Absolutely.
creativity in the classroom.
I'm gonna say, though, that one big piece of advice that I always give, especially in student choice, student voice, project based learning sessions that I lead, is that you know how you lead, and you know how you learn. And it's very easy when you're starting off with PBL and student choice and student voice to think about how you are empowered, and what makes you happy and comfortable and confident, and assign that to your students. And sometimes you forget that there are still students that learn the way that you're not comfortable too. So I think that that's the important thing with student choice and doing it right, doing it effectively, is keeping in mind that even though I'm a visual and kinesthetic learner, there are still read write students in my class that need to have those opportunities as well, so that they can write the scripts and they can write the screenplays, and they can help with the visual artists with storyboarding the dialogue out. So finding out like where those roles will really allow the students to again, harness their own strengths and best prepare them for the future.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, Sue, it has been an amazing and wonderful
Thank you
conversation.
so much
It
for
has been a
having me.
pleasure. I am so excited that we had the opportunity to connect. I know that this was something, a couple of months in the works because of your schedule and everything, but I'm just so thrilled that I was able to have you on the show just to really share your passion, your
Thank you so much for having
knowledge,
me.
and just your motivation, for all teachers and educators that are out there. And so thank you. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me that you are here. And as always, all our guests are now members of our PLF, or my personal learning family. And of course, our PLN. We're all in this together. And Sue, anytime that you'd love to come back and just continue to chat, you always have an open invitation.
Thank you so
So
much.
anything that you'd love to share, we're here for you. And to all our guests, everybody that is, excuse me, all our audience members, everybody watching right now live, or those of you that are going to catch the replay, make sure that you head over to our website, myedtech.life. The show will be up in about 30 minutes, and you will be able to find all of Sue's contact info, her bio. Reach out to her. She is an amazing resource, an amazing education leader, an amazing trainer, an amazing human being. And the energy that you saw here today is definitely the energy that you will get from her as well, as she describes herself as that 5'2" spark plug ready to
Yeah.
go. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And again, my friends, we will see you next Saturday. Next Saturday, we've got Jake Miller on our show. So we are very excited about that. But until next time, my friends, don't forget, stay techie.